You know, 90s kids are really built different. But maybe it wasn't just the global chaos. Maybe it wasn't just the dial-up tones and political scandals. Maybe it wasn't even the transition from go play outside to don't talk to strangers on AOL. Maybe, just maybe, it was the cartoons. Existential dread served with our morning milk. A side of abandonment with our after-school snacks. Bedtime stories? More like bedtime breakdowns. Let's talk about it. Imagine you're 8 years old, building time machines in your basement while your emotionally unavailable parents microwave dinner upstairs. And also, your sister keeps breakdancing through your trauma. That's Dexter's Lab. And it might be the smartest cartoon about a slow mental breakdown ever made, and it's one of my personal favorites. On the surface, this is just a kid inventor versus chaos in pink ballet shoes. Dexter is a literal boy genius. He speaks with a vaguely Eastern European accent, despite his parents sounding like they're from Ohio. His secret lab is massive, like underground space fleet massive. And every episode is him trying to create order, while his older sister Dee Dee waltzes in and blows it all up. It's fun, it's slapstick, it's colorful, but also it's giving inner conflict, perfectionism, emotional suppression, and identity collapse. Let's talk about the Dee Dee theory. This is the theory that made everyone go, wait, hold on. Dee Dee isn't real. She's a manifestation of Dexter's repressed emotions, his inner child, his untamed imagination, the side of him that doesn't follow the rules. Let's look at some of the clues. No one but Dexter ever acknowledges her being in the lab. She floats through lasers, walks through walls, breaks the laws of physics like it's a game. She always ruins his work right before success. Almost like he wants her to. Dee Dee equals Dexter's subconscious, a representation of what he tries to suppress: creativity, emotion, and vulnerability. And every time she wins, it's not sabotage, it's self-sabotage. Let's talk about the lab theory. The lab theory is that it isn't real either. We're going deeper. What if the entire lab, the tech, the gadgets, the global impact, is just a fantasy? Some fans believe Dexter is actually a lonely, possibly bullied kid. The lab is his mental escape hatch. He's not building robots, he's imagining them while trying to survive suburban life and pressure. Dee Dee might be the only real thing, the emotional chaos he can't shut out, or she's part of the delusion, a mental failsafe that reminds him this fantasy isn't sustainable. Let's talk about some dark episodes that hit so different now. The Big Cheese. Dexter tries to learn French overnight. The machine breaks, he can say omelette du fromage.
Morning, Dexter. Omelette de fromage. Morning, Poophead. Omelette de fromage. Omelette du...
Fun fact, that's how I know how to say cheese omelette in French. And at first, he thrives. Fame, love, success.
Dexter. Omelette de fromage.
But he can't express himself. He becomes trapped. This is a metaphor for losing your voice in the pursuit of success. He's celebrated, but totally inauthentic. Labrado, a full opera episode. No dialogue, just emotion through music.
Do your breathing, do your breathing, do your breathing. Do your breathing, do your breathing, do your breathing. Do your breathing, do your breathing, do your breathing.
Feels like an internal psychodrama. Dexter and Mandark's rivalry expressed as pure feeling. It's beautiful and kind of devastating. Last but not beast. Dexter's lab is exposed to the world. A kaiju war begins and reality unravels. The metaphor? Maybe the final collapse of Dexter's fantasy. The moment he can't keep the true world separate anymore. And we have a banned episode to talk about. Rude removal. Dexter removes his and Dee Dee's rude sides. But what he creates? Feral, cursing, violent versions of themselves. It's a literal Jungian shadow episode. The parts of themselves they suppress, turn loose. And for those who don't know, because I had to look this up, in Jungian psychology, the shadow refers to the unconscious aspects of the personality that are repressed or disavowed from the conscious mind.
You cannot have any dessert! Why? You want it all to yourself? Hey, where's the candy? Hey, watch where you're throwing that!
The family vibes? Not good. The parents in Dexter's lab are barely aware. And when they are, the mum is obsessively cleaning, and the dad is goofy, childish, and emotionally distant. The theory is that Dexter's fixation on order, science, and control is a coping mechanism. He's trying to bring structure to a world where the adults aren't in charge, so he takes the role. His lab is his way of creating meaning where there is none. Let's talk about the rivalry between Dexter and Mandark. Maybe they're not just rivals, but split selves. The theory is that Dexter and Mandark are two halves of the same mind. Dexter has logic, Mandark has ego. Dexter has repression, Mandark has validation. Dexter has inner control, Mandark has outer control. Dexter is in isolation, Mandark has obsession. But they're both lonely, gifted, and desperate for recognition. Their conflict might not be external, it might be internal. The battle between insecurity and ego, fear and confidence, perfectionism and collapse. Maybe this show is unstable on purpose. Time travel, dream episodes, sudden genre shifts, entire episodes reset reality with no explanation. The theory is that this isn't a continuity error, it's a symptom. The entire show is filtered through Dexter's fracturing mind. Reality bends because Dexter doesn't trust reality anymore. So he rebuilds it episode by episode. This was the gifted kid energy turned psychological drama. Dexter's lab was never just about science. It was a psychological study of what happens when a child tries to control chaos by erasing emotion. It was a battle between order and imagination. It was a cartoon about burnout, pressure, repression, and inner conflict, with a dash of lasers and an obsession with cheese. It wasn't just a cartoon for smart kids, it was a warning for what happens when being smart is the only thing you think makes you worthy. You're a 10-year-old whose parents don't notice you. Your babysitter is a literal villain, and your only sense of safety comes from magical creatures that fix all your problems. Until they don't. That's not a cartoon. That's a trauma response in glitter.
Timmy is an average kid, and no one doom and gloom up in his room is broken instantly.
Birthday cake, large rice, chocolate shake!
Odd parents, fairly odd parents.
Yeah, right!
This is the Fairly OddParents, another one of my favorites. Wishes, warnings, and a wand-fueled mental spiral. On the surface, it's magic, mayhem, and misery. Timmy Turner is a neglected kid with fairly godparents, Cosmo and Wanda. They grant any wish, but every single one spirals out of control. The rules exist, but mostly to ruin his fun. He's stuck in endless hijinks, school drama, and parental abandonment, all with a smile, kind of. But once you peek behind the pink sparkles, it's giving dissociation, trauma loops, emotional neglect, and repressed grief. Let's go. Theory 1 is that Cosmo and Wanda are hallucinations. What if they were never real? Cosmo and Wanda are Timmy's coping mechanisms. Not actual fairies, but fractured parts of his mind created to help him survive neglect and abuse. Let's break this down. His parents are hilariously, aggressively uninvolved. We're leaving Timmy. Have fun being emotionally abandoned. Vicky is abusive. Vicky is his babysitter. Not cartoonishly mean, but outright cruel. Cosmo and Wanda only appear when he's alone. No adult ever truly acknowledges them. Wanda could be representing his inner voice of reason, protective, mature, and maternal. Cosmo could be representing his regressed child self, chaotic, naive, and erratic. Together, they keep Timmy from breaking, but they're also not real. They're his last line of defense against the world falling apart. Let's talk about the coma theory. Some fans believe the entire show happens in Timmy's head while he's in a coma. Think about it. Time doesn't pass, he never ages, reality resets every 11 minutes. His wishes have life-altering consequences that get erased instantly. Jorgen von Strangle could be the hospital system. He's big, aggressive, and controls the rules. He's not just enforcing fairy law, he's gatekeeping consciousness. This would explain the show's surreal physics, dream logic, and emotional whiplash. It's a coma kid's brain trying to make sense of the pain. There's a theory around Timmy's trauma time loops. Let's talk about this one. Every episode follows the same cycle. Timmy has a problem, Timmy makes a wish, it spirals, he resets it like it never happened. That's not really storytelling, it's more like trauma processing. He tries to fix things, but the wishes always make him lonely, or turn him into a monster, or hurt someone he cares about. He never learns, he never gets better, he just loops, because real trauma doesn't offer resolution, only repetition. This one makes sense. This theory is basically saying that the fairy world equals a fantasy escape from abuse. Fairy world is pastel, nonsensical, and detached from reality. There's no consequences, no aging, no permanence, and it's just candy clouds and talking fish and reset buttons. It's not heaven, it's escapism. Every time Timmy tries to stay there forever, Jorgen shows up like, no, go back to your trauma. So Jorgen von Strangle equals the system, enforces the rules, controls memory, represents conformity, authority, and repression of emotional truth. He's not just a silly drill sergeant, he's the enforcer of psychological repression. There are a lot of mental health themes that we may have missed as children, but now we can recognize as adults. Let's break down some of these that Timmy experiences. Neglect is shown by his parents constantly leaving him with an abuser. Emotional deregulation is shown by his wishes are always over the top and very impulsive. His desire for control is shown by rewriting reality instead of facing conflict. Timmy's fear of abandonment is shown as clinging to Cosmo and Wanda with absolute desperation, and his loneliness is shown through, even with having friends, he's never truly connected. There are some dark episodes that have great examples of all of this, and let's talk about a few of those. Channel Chasers is an episode where Timmy hides in TV shows to escape his life. It ends with him giving up Cosmo and Wanda. It's a metaphor for letting go of childhood fantasy. But
Hey, Daddy! What's this?
Ah well, time to go to work.
the cycle isn't over, it just changed form. Episode The Secret Origin of Denzel Crocker. Mr. Crocker once had fairies. He lost them. He spirals into obsession and madness. It's played for laughs, but it's deeply tragic. He's a grown-up Timmy who remembers the magic and can't let go. Episode It's a Wishful Life. Timmy wishes he never existed. Everyone's life improves without him. It's the most brutal, unfiltered depiction of self-exit ideation ever slipped into a cartoon. Then he undoes it, because that's how fantasy works. It resets what reality won't. This wasn't a fairy tale, this was a fantasy survival story. The Fairly OddParents wasn't about magic, it was about mental health. It was a child's response to emotional neglect. It was a loop of coping mechanisms disguised as glitter. It was a cartoon where nothing ever truly changes, because the kid at the center is stuck in survival mode. What looked like fun was actually a cry for help. So next time you hear, Wanda, I wish, just know, that might be the sign of a kid trying to rewrite reality, one wish at a time. I won't even lie, and I won't even say that I'm ashamed to say this, because Spongebob Squarepants is still, to this day, one of my favorite TV shows of all time. But we all thought this was about a sponge and a spatula. No, babe, this is corporate trauma. Post-apocalyptic biology, and existential dread dressed in yellow. Let's talk about SpongeBob SquarePants.
Are you ready, kids?
Aye, aye, Captain!
But under the sea,
SpongeBob SquarePants!
absorbent and yellow and pouring. SpongeBob SquarePants, SpongeBob Square.
On the surface, he's a happy little sponge in a fun little ocean town. SpongeBob lives in a pineapple. He has a pet snail that meows, Gary. He works at the Krusty Krab for a literal coin-obsessed crustacean. His best friends are a starfish, who's a little on the dumber side, I'm so sorry Patrick, and a squirrel in an underwater dome. He absolutely lives to flip burgers and smile. But if you've ever watched SpongeBob and felt uneasy, you're not alone. Let's talk about the theories. Bikini Bottom is a nuclear test aftermath. Let's talk real geography for a second. Bikini Bottom is located under Bikini Atoll, a real island used by the US government for nuclear bomb testing in the 40s and 50s. Multiple detonations, tons of radiation, and the ocean floor altered forever. So what if the talking sea creatures are mutations? Their weird behavior are side effects of the chemical fallout. The logic-breaking physics is it's a world that literally doesn't work properly anymore. Let's break down the theory by character and what their mutation vibes are. The theory goes that SpongeBob has childlike optimism on a dissociative loop. This could possibly be brain damaged. I don't love this theory, okay? But it's out there. It's the theory. Moving on. For Plankton, the theory around his mutation is that he's a single-celled organism turned into an evil genius.
Oh, well, that makes sense.
The mutation theory for Sandy is that she's a land mammal surviving in a sci-fi dome, because that just doesn't make sense.
Jumpin' Jiminy! Time for another dose of fertilizer!
The theory for Mr. Krabs is that he's a war profiteer,
There ain't nothing fancy about that word!
possibly the last of his species, and maybe the reason why. Bikini Bottom isn't whimsical, it's what's left after the bombs fell. Let's talk about the red mist theory, otherwise known as Squidward's self-exit theory. This is real internet horror lore. Red mist, also known as Squidward's self-exit, is one of the most famous cartoon creepypastas of all time. A lost episode was allegedly found by a Nickelodeon intern. In this episode, Squidward performs a clarinet solo. He gets booed and then he spirals into depression. We see his hyper-realistic red eyes, there's distorted screams, there's photos of real dead children, allegedly. The episode ends with Squidward self-exiting. Before I play the alleged lost episode part, side note, I believe this to be the one that everyone has talked about. However, there have been so many recreations and fan art off of this situation that it's almost impossible, at least for me, to be sure it's the original. So feel free to comment and correct me, but I also just want to give a massive trigger warning. There is heavy reference to self-exit in this segment, and if you're unfamiliar with how creepypasta is, the graphics and audios can be quite jarring, so prepare yourself or skip this bit. Here we go.
Do it. Do it.
Totally fake, completely fictional, but it blew up. So hard that SpongeBob staff have acknowledged it. Nick never denied it, and fans still whisper about it to this day. Symbolically, it's about Squidward's internal agony, the crushing sadness under the comedy, the fan base growing up and realizing, hey, this show's really messed up. This theory is my favorite, and it makes the most sense to me, and this one is basically surrounding Squidward and that he's the only sane one. He's not grumpy, he's just the only character with emotional depth. He has hobbies, he's cultured, and he just wants some peace and quiet. And who surrounds him? A manic sponge who forgets reality every 5 minutes, a boss who exploits him, a friendless void of a starfish. I'm so sorry, Patrick. A city where no one respects boundaries. The theory is, essentially, that Squidward is not depressed by default. He's depressed because he's the only one who realizes that this world makes no sense. He's in literal hell, but it's under the sea. I like this theory, even though it's, basically cannibalism. This theory is that Krabby Patties are made from crabs. Yeah, we're gonna go there. Let's talk about the evidence. We never learn what's in a Krabby Patty. We just never do. Mr. Krabs is the only crab in town. We never see another one. The Krusty Krab is literally shaped like a lobster trap. Now, this piece of evidence kind of falls through because we do have a lobster on the show that we see kind of frequently, but it's interesting, okay? And some more evidence.
Well, little Patty, we're two of a kind. We've both lost our luster. So that's what I taste like.
The theory is Mr. Krabs wiped out his species to build a burger empire. Bikini Bottom runs on cannibal capitalism. And suddenly, secret formula, it just feels a lot more sinister. Another theory is that SpongeBob is trapped in a capitalist hell loop. Let's break down his life. He wakes up with forced positivity. He goes to a dead-end job. He works for a greedy boss. He seeks rest in consumer-approved hobbies. Rinse, repeat, forever. He doesn't age, he doesn't grow, he can't escape. His joy? Not happiness. It's manic dissociation. SpongeBob represents retail burnout, permanent childhood as corporate branding, a product who's never allowed to stop smiling. There are a lot of creepy episodes that scarred us all, and I know that you have some images in your mind. Let's run through a few of them. Episode Graveyard Shift, the hash-slinging slasher episode. Horror lighting, jump scares, red eyes, ends with a literal ghost, and it's still scary now.
I didn't know the buses ran this late. Off.
1, I hate you. And 2, how can that be me when I'm standing right here?
Episode Rock Bottom. SpongeBob is stranded in a dark, unfamiliar place where no one understands him. It's a metaphor for isolation and language barriers and helplessness. This episode's iconic. We all remember this one. It's one of my favorites. It's so good, but it's so creepy.
Even the soil looks different.
You mind putting me down?
I can't even tell the bathrooms apart!
Maybe we should wait for one more.
Episode SB-129. Squidward gets stuck in a timeless void. He's slowly losing his mind. There's laughs, there's screams, and then everything becomes nothing.
I may finally have found a place where I can be all alone. I gotta get out of here.
Episode I Had an Accident. SpongeBob breaks his butt, becomes agoraphobic, then a gorilla attacks him. No explanation, just madness. It sounds like one of my dreams.
Is it too late to go back inside yet? It's too late. Patrick? Sandy?
Yeah, SpongeBob?
I'm sorry I caused all this. I'm not scared of going outside anymore.
Episode Nasty Patty. SpongeBob and Mr. Krabs think they've killed someone, and they try to hide the body. It's a murder episode. I mean, it's amazing.
I don't think he'll be laughing, boy.
Why, sir?
Because that Patty killed him.
The ocean is cursed, and so are we. Spongebob Squarepants is a radiated society of mutated sea creatures, a workplace sitcom with late-stage capitalism, a metaphor for emotional numbness and denial, and a playground for creepypastas, cannibal theories, and horror-coded breakdowns. You thought this was just about jellyfishing and nautical nonsense, but it's actually about what happens when society collapses and we keep smiling through it anyways, and it will forever be one of my favorites. Sugar, spice, and everything nice. But someone slipped in a little chemical X, and now we've got a full-blown angelic war wrapped in pastel.
Sugar, spice, and everything. Chemical X.
The Powerpuff Girls, another favorite of mine. I will never get over this show. It literally shaped who I was as a child and honestly an adult, if I'm being really real with you. On the surface, this was accidental supergirls versus monsters. You know how it goes. Professor Utonium tries to make the perfect little girl, but accidentally adds Chemical X. Boom. Blossom, Bubbles, and Buttercup are born. Townsville is saved every single episode. Until the next monster, or the next explosion, or the next moral collapse. But when you really zoom in, it's not just about girl power, it's about divine error, it's about spiritual warfare, it's Genesis rewritten in glitter and a little trauma. Let's talk about the theories. Biblical allegory. Yes, really. Professor Utonium equals the creator, God. He tries to build innocence in a lab with logic and science and perfection. But Chemical X, aka Divine Chaos, corrupts the creation. The Powerpuff Girls represent angels, or Nephilim, or divine instruments. They fight evil, they save the world, but they're not perfect. They make mistakes, and they hurt people, and they struggle with their morality and with violence. Blossom could represent justice and law, the rational leader. Buttercup could represent wrath and protection, the holy fury. And Bubbles could represent innocence and mercy, the pure light in the darkness. They're not just superheroes. They're imperfect celestial weapons in a flawed system. A very convincing theory is that him is the devil, period. Let's talk about him. Yes, always capitalized, always terrifying. Red-skinned, clawed, dresses in drag, iconic outfit, by the way, wears thigh-highs and a tutu. His voice switches between demonic and falsetto. He never fights, he just manipulates and gaslights and possesses. He's not your average Saturday morning villain. He's Satan. Not metaphorically, but literally. In Speed Demon, the girls time travel and find him ruling a hell world. Everyone is dead. Townsville is ash and the sky is red. And him? Just sitting there, waiting. Another theory is that Townsville is a false utopia. There's bright colors and sunshine and ice cream, but if you look deeper, the mayor is a clueless puppet. The police are useless. They literally beg children for help. Townsville is in constant crisis, and no one learns or changes. It's not a city, it's a facade. A society in denial. A utopia that's only safe because the divine keep intervening. Without the girls, it falls to him. Every time. Let's talk about the villains as sins and spiritual threats. These bad guys aren't just quirky, they're philosophical monsters. Mojo Jojo could symbolize pride, very Lucifer-coded, former assistant who fell from grace. Fuzzy Lumpkins could symbolize xenophobia. He shoots anyone who enters his space. Princess Morbucks could symbolize envy, and she hates the girls for what she cannot buy. Sedusa could symbolize lust and manipulation. She uses desire as a weapon. The Amoeba Boys could symbolize apathy. They want to be evil but can't even try. Him symbolizes the ultimate evil, temptation, despair, destruction incarnate. This is a full-on sin complex, the spiritual apocalypse of childhood, one villain at a time. Let's talk a little bit about Chemical X, which could be the divine chaos. What even is Chemical X? It's non-scientific, not explained, and not controlled. It turns everything nice into world-saving weapons, but it also corrupts. It hurts. The theory is that Chemical X is the imperfection in perfection. It's Pandora's box, original sin, divine entropy. Professor Utonium didn't make the girls, he unleashed them. There's a few episodes that went way too hard. Let's talk about those. Moral decay. Buttercup gets addicted to knocking teeth out for cash. She ends up with a full-on intervention scene. Like, this is Breaking Bad for toddlers.
Girls, a little help here? Sorry, Buttercup. You know what they say? An eye for an eye, and a tooth for a tooth.
Episode Speed Demon, the Dark Timeline episode. Townsville is destroyed, him rules, the music is demonic choir, and the visuals are ash, fire, and despair.
Are you
years.
Still pretty scary to this day.
No, darn, why didn't I write it down? Who's her mind playing tricks on me again? Why won't you leave me alone?
Professor, it's us, the Powerpuff Girls.
Stay back, leave me alone.
Episode Him Diddle Riddle. Him traps the girls in a psychological torture maze. Buttercup screams in pain and Him giggles. This is like the Saw series.
People for so many years. Now to their eyes you must bring tears. You've got 2 minutes.
That's easy. I don't know if this is the right way to do this. Your puppy is nuts. You're right, it'll take too long.
The Powerpuff Girls was not just girl power, even though that was a huge part of it. It was divine horror. It wasn't just adorable and action-packed and empowering, it was also a biblical metaphor, a story of corrupted innocence, a false paradise maintained by divine intervention, a world at war between chaotic creation and cosmic despair. These girls weren't born to play dress-up. They were made to save existence from collapse. Every single day. Genocide, trauma, and a cursed soul reincarnated. You thought this was just elemental magic and boomerangs? No, bestie. This is a war crime wrapped in anime vibes. This is Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Water. Earth. Fire. 4 elements could stop them, but when the world needed him most, he vanished. Aang can save the world.
On the surface, it's just elements, adventure, and the end of the world. In a world divided by nations of water, earth, fire, and air, only the Avatar, a reincarnated spiritual warrior, can master all 4 and bring balance. Enter Aang, the current Avatar. He's 12 years old, he's been frozen in ice for 100 years, and he wakes up to find his entire culture destroyed. And the world is actively on fire. His mission is to stop a genocidal empire and save the world before he finishes puberty. Let's talk about a really heavy theme that's present in this series, which is genocide, child soldiers, and colonial trauma. Let's be very clear. This show opens with the complete annihilation of an entire people. The air nomads, who are peaceful, monk-like, and spiritual, were systemically wiped out by the Fire Nation in an effort to eliminate Aang before he could fight back. Aang wakes up alone, and he's the last of his kind. He finds bones where his mentors once were. He has no home, no family, no identity that isn't already extinct. Meanwhile, the Fire Nation is a fascist empire built on conquest. They use propaganda and war machines to justify erasing other cultures. It's heavily inspired by real-world regimes from Nazi Germany to Imperial Japan. The kids, Aang, Zuko, Azula, Toph, and Jet, are all under 15. They're used as warriors and tools of rebellion or trophies of power. And their innocence, it's sacrificed to survival. This is not fantasy, this is history, filtered through glowing arrows and flying bison. More themes that we see very prevalent in this series are mental illness, abuse, and psychotic breakdowns. Let's talk about Zuko. He's verbally and physically abused by his father, the Fire Lord Ozai. He's burned and banished for showing mercy, and he spends years chasing Aang not for duty but for parental approval. His entire arc is about deprogramming. Zuko's story isn't about becoming good, it's about surviving emotional abuse and healing and choosing identity over trauma. Azula is a prodigy trained in fear, control, and isolation. She weaponizes love and rejects vulnerability and spirals the second that she's alone. She ends the series hallucinating and sobbing, broken. Azula isn't a villain, she's a perfect weapon that cracked under the pressure. Let's talk about some theories around the show. This theory is essentially that the Avatar cycle is a curse. Let's talk big picture, okay? The Avatar reincarnates endlessly, is born into every new war, and carries responsibility for problems that they didn't cause. Aang didn't ask to be the Avatar. He literally ran away from the pressure and froze himself into an ice escape. Korra, the avatar after Aang, says it flat out, "I never asked to be special." The theory is that the avatar isn't divine. The avatar is a cosmic punishment, a soul doomed to carry the sins of humanity again and again and again. Another very big theme that we see throughout this series is warfare, industrialization, and spiritual erasure. The Fire Nation doesn't just burn villages, they build factories on sacred land, they replace bending with machines. They turn natural magic into a weapon of empire. They create tanks, airships, and metal prisons. They strip entire cultures of their bending and spirituality, and they claim to civilize while destroying everything in their path. This is colonialism, disguised as firebending. This is a real world war dressed in anime aesthetics. There are a few episodes that go way too hard for a kids show. Let's unpack a couple of those. Episode The Southern Air Temple. Aang finds the mass grave of his people. He snaps and enters the avatar state from pure grief and rage, and understandably so. Episode Zuko Alone. Zuko's childhood flashbacks are brutal. Episode The Beach. Zuko, Azula, Mai, and Ty Lee unpack emotional trauma on vacation. Azula literally admits, "People love me, but only when I'm terrifying." Episode The Guru / Crossroads of Destiny. Aang is told to let go of Katara, his greatest emotional anchor, to reach ultimate power. This moment questions whether enlightenment equals emotional detachment, and it really hurts. Elemental magic isn't the point. Avatar: The Last Airbender is a story of children surviving a broken world, a retelling of real war crimes through spiritual metaphor. A mythology about pain, reincarnation, and the cost of balance. You thought this was about waterbending? It's actually about what happens when trauma is inherited and justice is corrupted and one kid is told to fix it all. This show isn't scary because it has monsters. It's scary because we did this and we still are doing this. What if your childhood coping mechanism came to life and you were told to throw it away? That's not whimsical, that's spiritual devastation wrapped in googly eyes. We are officially in one of the softest, saddest cartoon breakdowns of them all. This is Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends. Dissociation, abandonment, and the loneliest cartoon on Earth. On the surface, this is whimsy, friendship, and Blue being an iconic menace. The premise is really simple. Mac is an 8-year-old boy who has given up his imaginary friend, Blue. He brings him to Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends, a massive mansion where outgrown imaginary friends go to wait for adoption. Every episode is chaos and hijinks and a new quirky friend with a wild personality. But what if none of them are imaginary? What if this isn't a cartoon about playtime, but a metaphor for emotional repression, abandonment, and internalized trauma? Buckle up, babe. There's a theory that Foster's isn't a playhouse. It's a psych ward, or an orphanage. Let's unpack this one. Mac's mom doesn't tell him to give up Blue because it's time to grow up. She's overwhelmed. There's no school therapist, no counseling, just get rid of your inner world. At Foster's, there's no outside oversight, there's no government involvement, there's just Madame Foster and Frankie and a bunny in a monocle trying to manage dozens of unstable beings. The interpretation could be that Foster's is a metaphor for institutionalization, a place where the emotionally discarded are stored until forgotten. They don't grow up, they get left behind. There's also a theory that each friend equals a child's trauma response. These aren't just made-up creatures, they're like emotional echoes, psychic splinters. Blue could symbolize Mac's rebellion, his resistance to being emotionally silenced. Eduardo could symbolize the manifestation of abuse, large, gentle, and terrified, built from a child who needed strength. Coco could symbolize chaos and confusion and communication barriers. Wilt could symbolize trauma from guilt and failure. His deformity could be a visible wound from emotional scars. Duchess could symbolize narcissism and elitism, a friend that was neglected and overcompensated. Cheese could symbolize regression and disassociation, possibly born from trauma-induced developmental delays. These friends didn't disappear when their creators left, they stayed, frozen in the shape of pain. There's another theory that Madame Foster is the caretaker of the mind. Let's talk about Madame Foster. She's loving, eccentric, and timeless. She doesn't age, and she never leaves the house. The theory is that she's not real, that she's a subconscious protector, like a therapist or an internal nurturer managing the fragmented pieces of trauma. Frankie could be the day-to-day self, and Mr. Harriman could be the internalized rules and control. And Blue is the fight-back instinct, the rebellious little voice that refuses to go quietly. The outgrowing of the imaginary friends could actually be the emotional repression. The central rule: when you grow up, you give up your imaginary friend, which in this world means you must let go of the one thing that helped you survive. Imagine being told to abandon your sense of safety, your identity, your only emotional support because maturity demands it. And what happens to those friends? Some get adopted, most just wait, alone, in limbo, forever. There were some particularly emotional episodes that really broke our hearts, such as episode Go Goo Go. Goo creates dozens of imaginary friends constantly. The interpretation is that she's a child just spiraling, creating voices just to stay afloat. And the staff, they try to stop her, not out of cruelty, but just out of exhaustion. Episode Good Wilt Hunting. Wilt goes searching for his original creator, thinking he was abandoned. Turns out that the boy never wanted to let go. Wilt just assumed he wasn't good enough. This is a metaphor for guilt-fueled self-rejection. Episode The Big Picture. There's a wall of photos, kids who've left, friends who've been left behind. Blue stares at it and realizes just how many of them are still waiting. It's not nostalgia, it's a graveyard of memories that no one wants to claim. There is one more theory that this is all in Mac's mind. If we go one level deeper, we could think about what if Foster's isn't real at all? What if Blue is Mac's defiance, and Eduardo is Mac's fear, Wilt is his guilt, Coco is his confusion, Cheese is his regression, and Frankie, Harriman, and Foster are his internal roles that keep it all running. And Foster's itself could be a mental landscape, a place Mac's mind built to compartmentalize. He's 8 years old and stuck. The entire show happens in a loop and no one ages and all these things that are kind of a similar thread throughout these cartoons. No one leaves without emotional weight. The theory is that Mac has DID, also known as dissociative identity disorder, and Foster's is the inner world he retreats to where all of his feelings become beings, and where growing up means losing the only parts of him that have ever made him feel safe. This show was actually emotional Armageddon. Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends is not just whimsical and weird and wacky, it was also a metaphor for abandonment, a study in mental fragmentation, a love letter to the coping mechanisms we were told to throw away. These friends, they're not forgotten, they're just waiting for someone to say, I still need you. And that wraps up our deep dive into the most twisted, haunted corners of 90s and 2000s cartoons. If you've made it this far, you're officially Cursed Nostalgic royalty. Let me know in the comments which theory haunted you the most, and don't forget, this is just the beginning, because I'm just getting started. See you in the next one. Stay weird and stay watching.